Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Welcome to a new video. Today I'm bringing you my May favorites. That's right, this series is continuing on. We're halfway there, folks. Kind of crazy that I've really stuck to this and I've actually been illustrating my favorites every month. And it has definitely turned into a monthly pattern, it seems. I started that 2 months ago? Last month was the oranges. The month before, I created my first sort of like pattern using objects that represented my favorites from the month. And I'm just digging the pattern thing. I don't know if I just like how it looks page over like page to page, or like figuring it out, like having to problem solve what the pattern is going to be. It also just, I don't know, I've always wanted to have some sort of series of patterns that I'm creating, and this just seems to like scratch that itch for me. So we're sticking with it. And you might be wondering, what is this weird clown looking thing that I'm illustrating, which is definitely outside of the box for me, not my normal thing that I would sort of be drawing. But it's a marionette. And if I have a clip of it, I will put it in somewhere at some point of this in this video. Maybe here, I don't know. I was able to attend a Bob Barker marionette show, and it was my first time really seeing that. I didn't get to go to the theater. I heard that going to the theater here in LA is pretty magical, but a local art gallery was doing like a little traveling show. It was like a mini, like 30-minute thing. It was on Mother's Day weekend. So I went, I brought my mom, and I brought Roman, and James came along too, and we went and saw this little puppet show. Now, I did not know what to expect. There was just one puppeteer that came, and there was a very small little curtain, like maybe a bathtub's length of a curtain, and then just kind of boxes underneath, and then like a little speaker. And I don't know, maybe because I didn't have any expectations, I don't know. But this puppeteer came out, and I just kept wondering, like, this is going to be interesting. Like, one person with a puppet, multiple puppets, how is this going to work? And the show started, and it was obviously just like a soundtrack, like one track of music that she was doing all the puppets with. And then she would go behind the curtain, bring out a puppet, and it would come around and it would do its little dance or act or whatever it was for that part of the song or whatever track that that puppet had. And let me tell you, it was absolute magic. I'm kind of bummed that I didn't film the first puppet that she brought out, because it was like a little fluffy dog. And it was so interactive. Like, there were little rules, like you couldn't touch the puppets, obviously. You had to sit in a certain like spot, and we were on the ground. I was sitting on the floor with Roman sat with me for like a hot minute, and then he went to go sit with G-Ma, my mom. But James and I were on the floor, and she would actually like dance the puppets like into our laps, and they would come over and kind of like wave at you and talk at you. And I was just mesmerized by the entire thing, the entire process. I was mesmerized by the puppeteer and how incredible it is, how talented she was, that this was one woman managing all of these puppets, just going behind a curtain, grabbing a new puppet, coming out, and then just really showing their different personalities. Like, it was pretty wild. Each puppet really did have their own personalities. And it was, okay, so the first puppet she brought out, coming back to the fluffy dog, this little dog came out. I literally was teary-eyed watching this little dog puppet work its way through the crowd and sit in kids' laps and flop its little ears and wag its tail. And immediately you are like transported and sucked in, and you kind of forget that there is someone, maneuvering this thing and pulling its strings and moving it around. And I was just so mesmerized and blown away that it was definitely one of my favorite moments from May, and something that I decided to sort of highlight as my pattern here. I did have other favorites from the month. No surprise, a Disney staycation. Zine Fest. I had Zine Fest in May, which was a pretty amazing experience. My first time sort of tabling as an artist. But I feel like, I don't want to burn you guys out on Disney stuff. At some point, I'm going to start a Disney sketchbook, and that will be its own thing. I could torture you all that way with Disney stuff. And Zine Fest I had already documented so heavily in my little studio vlog. So I just felt like, you know what, this was a really fun, personal, like core memory that I thought that this would be the perfect way to kind of document it. I had obviously pre-sketched this guy. He was one of the puppets in the show, and you can kind of see my original sketch really briefly there in my off-camera crinkle at the start of this video. And he's got like a little stick with little balls on it. It was like a pole with balls that had strings on them, and they could move around. So it was interesting. The puppeteer would sort of move things and manipulate the puppet and this certain prop so that it looked like he was kind of tossing the balls up into the air and catching them and balancing them. And it was just incredible. And he was one of the ones that I sort of sketched out first. I knew just watching the show, I was like, oh my gosh, I want to go home and draw all of these marionettes because they're just so incredible and so wildly different. Again, each with their just different personalities and vibe, and it was really, really cool. So I had sketched this guy previously, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to reuse the sketch that I already have going on. He might make a really fun pattern, and that's what we're going to do. And I had already kind of had him colored and figured out in my little off-camera crinkle, so I quite literally just mimicked that again in the sketchbook. Keeping it really loose with just watercolor and some of my hybrid gouache that you know I love to use and that I talk about often in these favorites videos. And you'll notice too that I'm using a water brush. This is my secret trick for keeping things really loose. If I don't want tight, saturated drawings, I use a water brush. It's the fastest way to just get color on, not really think about things, and move really quickly. For whatever reason, with a water brush, I move way faster than with a typical paintbrush. Maybe it's just I'm not dipping a brush into a water cup or my little water and then into my pan. I have no idea. But the water brush it's trained my brain to work quickly. So that's kind of what I've done. Another conscious decision with this one is that I decided to outline everything with my little blue colored pencil. So rather than coming in with like black, which I like to do a lot and outline things, I decided to keep this one a little bit softer. It gave it kind of like a more vintage vibe, which these marionettes are super, super old. And I felt like it not having a black outline and just kind of coming back through and beefing my lines back up again with that same blue pencil was really all it sort of needed. When it came to the background, I knew I wanted to do a really bold background, and I was really on the fence about what color I was going to use, but ended up going with this red Recollections paint pen, which I love these pens. They don't make them anymore, which is a bummer. So I have just a stockpile, and I'm slowly working through my stockpile. But I went with the red because the red is a Bob Barker marionette thing. The puppeteers all wear all red, literally like red shoes, red pants, red shirt, red face mask. They're completely in red. And the curtain behind her was red as well. So I thought that was a good sort of representation of that. And it just connects to that memory for me as well. So there you have it, my little story time from May, my favorite moment in May. A bunch of marionettes turned into a little pattern. I'm quite happy with how it turned out. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe if you're new here for a new video every week. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.